Boxing King Media in association with Boxstore. Ben Shalom, promoter of a huge pay-per-view announced today. Chris Eubank Jr. has taken the rematch against Liam Smith. So I've got to ask you first question, Ben. Why did it take 2 months to get this fight over the line? Was it the Conor Benn situation or was it negotiations back and forward?
The negotiations were in the first contract, so it was quite an easy one because it was already contracted. I think, look, clearly there was something going on, and I think there was a huge offer made to Chris Eubank Jr. and fair play for him not taking it, because I think it would have been a strange one for boxing, but also he wants to. This hurt him. This hurt him. He'd never been stopped before like this, and that's why I believe he activated the rematch clause. Same venue, same fighter, same arena. You've got to give your credit to someone that wants to do that, and massive credit to Eubank Jr. because it's going to be an unbelievable fight, and you've actually got a Eubank Jr. now who's clearly more serious. I mean, yes, he's laughing and joking up there, but it's a different energy. It's a different energy because he knows how good Liam Smith is now, but he's fighting for the big nights and the big fights and his career at that level.
Is there a rematch if, say, for example, Chris wins? Could we see a trilogy, or is it everyone goes their own way after this?
We could do, but no contracted rematch. This is the roll of the dice for both of them.
And pay-per-view wise, obviously, I'm guessing you got the numbers from last time. Are you able to tell us what it did, and do you think the rematch will do more?
Look, it did very well, and I think the rivalry just was on the week. Was controversial, probably shouldn't have happened, went over the line. But the interest in the fight when it came around was huge. I still feel like a lot of the casual fans thought there was no way Liam Smith would win. Absolutely no way. And then that happened. I think this time it will go. Sorry, wait a minute. It will be bigger because Liam Smith's now a box office star. He's an A-side. Without a doubt. The first time, as I say, it was almost like the Eubank Jr. show. That shows the level of how big a star he is. This time Liam Smith's a box office star as well, and I think there's so much on the line. There's so much needle. The rivalry is clear to see, and it's just a great fight. Forget the names, forget the size of the event, forget what this is. This is a great fight. And if Eubank Jr. is a different Eubank Jr., i.e. one that's maybe not coming off 11 months out the ring and two fight camps and weight losses and all sorts of stuff, maybe he is more resilient this time, and maybe we get the fight that we all believed we would get, and it will go longer, and it really could be an absolute brawl. But yeah, credit. I have to say credit to Eubank Jr. because he is a fighter. This hurt him. And he wants to put it right.
And on chief support, and you probably didn't even need to put this fight on because the main event sells itself. You're treating the fans to Savannah Marshall in an undisputed fight. So the first question I've got to you about that fight is, we was hearing yesterday that the fight wasn't done. So can you tell us what the last minute issue was to get that fight over the line?
It's just a big fight, and that means there's a lot to consider. Cruz has come over here, undisputed champion, and is putting it all on the line for Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall is for us at Boxer, we're so proud, because when we first signed her, she was almost, I remember when she headlined the first time in Newcastle, she was like, are you sure? Are you sure? And even up until going on ring walk, is there anyone there? Have they turned up? She's now had 2 fights in Newcastle, done extremely well, headlined a couple of times, goes to the O2, sells that out. She is one of the most recognisable sportswomen in the UK now, and that is 2 million people watched her last fight. So for her to take that loss and to say, you know what, even if I can't get the rematch that they wanted, her and Peter saw something and knew something wasn't right. They wanted the rematch. We couldn't get the immediate rematch. We've then gone into this, and she's gone up a weight and she feels much more comfortable. She's wanted to go up for this weight for a long time. She's much more powerful. You've got to take your hat off to her, because a lot of fighters would have wanted comeback fights and this and that. This is all or nothing. She is risking the potential Shields rematch with this fight, and she's also, this is the next best thing. This is a massive fight. It's probably the biggest fight in the super middleweight division history in women's boxing, and it is. We talked about Shields Marshall being the heavyweight division. This really is the heavyweight division competitively in women's boxing, and yeah, massive fight, so much on the line. And yeah, proud of her for jumping in and going and believing in herself and knowing that she can do the business straight off the bat. And I think it would set up. I don't want to look too far ahead, but if she could become undisputed at 168, I think that's where she will stay, and that means where perhaps a rematch might be one day.
Can you reveal if could expect anybody else on this card, any other big boxer names?
Zach Shelley's got a massive fight against Mark Heffron for the British title, which is a huge fight for him. Mark Heffron, obviously a big star in Manchester, sells a lot of tickets. Natasha Jonas, yes, been a long time coming, Fire of the Year last year, gets back on this card, and looking forward to that. There's a few surprises as well. It is going to be a big card. I think those top three fights, first of all, it's a double header. It's two fights that could have headlined any card. Then you've got Chelly Heffron. We've got a few more big fights to announce as well. It's a great announcement for us, and just delighted to get it over the line.
What will the cost of the pay-per-view be?
What will the cost? £20.
It seems like a good deal. That and just a couple of other things. You made that statement about Martin Bakole the other day, saying that Wilder should fight him next, and you obviously will have seen the response from a lot of boxing people, and basically almost taking the piss out your comments and having a laugh about it. But what I want to ask you, Ben, is was that you being serious, or was that you just trying to promote your guy and getting his name out there?
Look, I think it's our job to make noise for Martin Bakole, and it certainly happened, and his name's not been talked about. It's been talked about since, and he had a great week in terms of numbers out there. Look, from a business perspective, of course, Deontay Wilder's not going to choose to fight Martin Bakole, but there's a mandatory system for a reason. He is number 2. Deontay Wilder is somehow number 1. Usyk will be ordered to face Dubois. If people follow rules and regulations, there will be a final eliminator at some point, or a fight for the interim title, or the regular title. So, of course, from a business perspective, no, but this is a sport as well. This is a sport that you can fight to the top. I mean, Alexander Usyk's now the king of the heavyweight division, and he got that off the back of a mandatory with Anthony Joshua. And that's the route that we'll have to go with Martin Bakole. But of course, we want his name considered with the best. I think he will get there. He's still in his 20s. It's just great to get his name out there, and it definitely worked. And I think over time, it would be nice to see heavyweight fights happening, not just waiting 18 months, 2 years for one big fight that might happen. Yes, it's great when it happens, but what happens for the rest of the time? And that's why Joe Joyce against Zhilei Zhang was so refreshing to me. When you see, and you have to credit Queensberry for that, they gave us a heavyweight fight, not on pay-per-view, that was a risk that people are saying he shouldn't have taken. Well, what is this? Boxers should box, and we should fight the best, and they should fight more regularly. And that's what I'd like to see. And that's all it is. And yeah, Martin Bakole, we know, will have to fight his way literally to the top.
So your tongue-in-cheek comment paid off and did what he had to do. And then the other thing I want to ask you is, you mentioned in an interview the other day that Fabio Ward is a free agent. That's something nobody was aware of. So could that potentially mean that you could be in the business to potentially sign him as a boxer fighter, or are you just looking to deal with him directly?
Look, for us, we do, and all my comments are to do, we want to make the fights as big as possible for Fraser Clark. We believe he can get to box office. We believe in his potential. The interest in his career after 6 fights is ludicrous. Whatever you think, it's crazy. And yes, he was ordered for a British title after 6 fights. I mean, it would be a record by a long way. I think Joe Joyce was 12 fights, Anthony Joshua was 14. We were trying to make that fight already, and we will continue. It doesn't need a purse bid to specify a month as to when it should happen, when the purse bid really shouldn't have been called anyway. Of course, we want the Fabio Wardley fight. And we'll continue to make sure that happens. But yeah, that's all that is. And for us, Fraser Clark, we're looking out for him. and we want him to have the best career possible and the biggest nights possible. These are big fights for him at British level before he goes to where he wants to be at world level, and we want to make sure they're as big as possible, and that's how you create a superstar. And we need more British superstars in the heavyweight division. We need them coming through, and Fraser Clark has an opportunity to do that, and that's what our focus is over the next 6 to 12 months, is to make the biggest fights for him on the biggest possible platform and create a superstar out of Fraser Clark, and he's already done a lot on his way to becoming that.
Last question for you. When you signed Joseph Parker, it was announced and presented as a long-term deal, but obviously he's left after 2 fights. So could you explain that for the fans who are obviously wondering why it was portrayed as like a long-term deal, but in reality it was a quick 2 fights and he's off in Australia now?
Yeah, I think first of all, we have a great relationship with Joseph Parker. We're never going to stand in the way of fighters fighting. We did the same with many fighters, and we'll continue to do that. We aren't a promoter tradition of old. We have fighters that we want to develop, and it's very long term, and we have fighters on multi-fight deals. I don't know whether it should have been positioned long term or who said it was long term, but multi-fight deals where sometimes there's opportunities that come up and you want them to pursue them, and we're not going to hold a fighter on the sidelines if there's opportunities to go. Why would anyone do that? That's our motto, in the sense, why do we want fighters to be inactive and be sat there? You see so many fighters that struggle with inactivity, and if someone else can give them activity, that's what we want for boxing. I think we're very comfortable in our position, and we don't feel the need to hold fighters hostage, unless obviously if we've got a plan and we've got a great option for them in the short term, but not just to sit on the sidelines when we have fighters that we're committed to long term.
Ben Shalom, I appreciate it. I didn't know about Tasha and Heffron and Shelley. It clearly is a brilliant card, so I look forward to it. Thank you.
Cheers, bro. Thank you.